Well, good morning, everybody. It's Barb Katie. It's good to be with all of you again on this fine Monday morning. I hope you had a wonderful week last week, full of celebration and visiting and time spent with people dear to your hearts. I certainly did, and I'm looking forward to a new week ahead as we move forward here in our lives in the second half of this exciting year that is before us. What I thought I'd do is spend maybe a week or two. We'll see how it goes. Discussing what it means, basically, to eat healthy. Um, the US government and the Canadian government both put out guidelines for their citizens to follow, and they're quite similar. There are some differences, of course, but they're basically quite similar in terms of giving the best advice possible based on the research that has been done on what it means to eat healthy for the average individual. Bear in mind that most of us aren't average. We always have something a little unique about ourselves. So this is just something to use in discussions with your doctor and your other healthcare professionals when you're looking at ways to improve your overall health as you move forward. And one of those ways is in getting good nutrition. In the US guidelines, there are four overarching guidelines that encourage healthy eating patterns at each stage of life and recognize that individuals will need to make shifts in their food and beverage choices to achieve a healthy pattern, probably. The guidelines also explicitly emphasize that a healthy dietary pattern is not a rigid prescription. Rather, they can be customized within the framework of core elements within which individuals make tailored and affordable choices and food preference choices based on personal preference, cultural preference, and traditional preferences. Eat what you like, sort of, but eat it within a framework that will ensure your best health. So with that in mind, I'm just going to give you a quick overview, and then in the weeks to come, we'll discuss a little bit more thoroughly some of the different aspects. Make every bite you eat count within the guidelines. And here's how. Follow the right healthy diet pattern at every stage in your life. Infants, toddlers, childhood, adolescence, adulthood, pregnancy, lactation, becoming older adults. There are specific dietary needs all along the spectrum. It's never too early, nor is it ever too late to eat healthfully. And that's important to remember. It's never too early to start, and it's never too late to start. Start today. This is a good place. For about the first 6 months of our lives, most infants are fed breast milk. Continuing to feed infants breast milk through at least the first year of life and longer is something that many people do. Feeding infants iron fortified infant formulas during the first year of life when human milk is not available is also something that is often done, and providing infants with supplemental vitamin D beginning soon after birth is also a dietary pattern that can be practiced to the advantage of the newborn. At about 6 months, normally we begin to introduce infants to nutrient-dense complementary foods, introducing infants to potential allergenic foods along with other complementary foods slowly and gradually to make sure that these foods don't generate unexpected results or become problematic. Encourage infants and toddlers to consume a variety of foods from all food groups, including foods rich in iron and zinc, particularly for infants fed human milk, which is sometimes deficient in those. And then from 12 months through older adulthood, generally follow a healthy dietary pattern across that life spectrum to meet nutrient needs, help achieve a healthy body weight, and reduce the risk of chronic disease as a result of working on eating well, eating healthily, eating foods from all areas in the wheel from which you can choose. Customize. Number two is to customize and enjoy nutrient-dense foods and beverages, choices to reflect, like we said before, budgetary concerns, personal likes and dislikes, cultural traditions, and traditionally provided foods. I know from traveling across the US and Canada, I can attest to the fact that there are some definite food preferences and cultural differences in different areas of our countries, just based on maybe the people who settled there originally, what food was naturally available within the area, and traditions of the settlers that came in. And these have been carried forward to our modern day. I live in a community that was settled with a lot of Italian immigrants in its early foundations, and to this day, we have a rich Italian heritage in our community of food preferences and ways of eating that have remained with us, keeping alive the traditions that have become not only family, but cultural and personal preferences. I am a huge fan of garlic. I believe it's probably one of my favorite seasonings. And I attribute that a lot to the community in which I was reared, where it was featured in the flavor profile of a lot of the dishes that we enjoyed here. I'm also a huge fan of fresh herbs. And again, that I think translates to the community in which I grew up and the foods with which I was familiar eating. The third thing that we can look at as we go through the analysis of what we eat and the guidelines for what it means to eat healthy is to focus on meeting food group needs with the most nutrient-dense foods and beverages, and still stay within a calorie limit that balances our needs and the demands of our bodies and ways to fulfill the requirements of our bodies for energy and repair and growth. An underlying premise of the dietary guidelines is that nutritional needs should be met primarily from foods and beverages, from real food, specifically nutrient-dense foods and beverages. Nutrient-dense foods provide vitamins, they provide minerals and other health-promoting components, and have no or very little added sugars. Same goes for saturated fats and for salt. You don't find them in these natural foods. A healthy dietary pattern consists of nutrient-dense forms of food and beverages across all the food groups, not just one in particular, in appropriate amounts to meet our body's requirements and within certain calorie limits as well. It's sort of like, what does it take to run a VW? What does it take to run an 18-wheeler. Different requirements, but still you want to provide the best, most appropriate level of fuel to run that engine as best it can be run. And no different in our body machine. We want to feed it the very best we can. The core elements that we look at for doing this that help us in developing what is considered a healthy dietary pattern include lots of veggies, dark green, red, orange, beans, legumes, peas, lentils, starchy vegetables, and all other vegetables. Eat the rainbow is a good way of expressing the importance of vegetables. I love fresh vegetables in season. And right now, my cucumbers are coming on in gay abundance. So I'm enjoying them thoroughly. And there are all other vegetables equally in the gardens that are coming on. And there's nothing much more fun for me than to go down to the food stands on the weekend and see what the farmers are bringing in, and just eating special vegetables and fruits that I don't get a chance to eat necessarily in their fresh form throughout the year. Fruit is another area that we should focus on, and especially eating whole fruit as opposed to fruit juices or fruit processed in other ways. Biting into a crisp, fresh apple right now, or a juicy peach. It's just so satisfying to all the senses, and it's extremely nutrient dense as well. Look at grains, focusing on whole grains. When Mom fed me oatmeal, she knew what she was doing. To this day, I love oatmeal in many different ways, and I've experimented with doing oatmeal in a way other than just cooking it on the stove. I love the overnight oatmeal. I love oatmeal mixed with yogurt into sort of a muesli-like thing. But there are many grains to choose from that are whole grains that haven't had that germ processed out of them, the nutrient nugget, if you will. Dairy foods certainly come into play. I think sometimes dairy gets a bad rap, and that's unfortunate because dairy has a role to play. Fat-free or low-fat milk, yogurt, all kinds of cheeses, and there are even lactose-free versions and fortified dairy made from soy and yogurt as alternatives. I think a lot of you have tried almond milk, oat milk, other nut milks for food intolerances that don't make it possible for you to enjoy dairy in its natural state. But dairy is a component for those who tolerate it well. Protein foods, lean meat, poultry, eggs, seafood, fish, fresh fish, beans, peas, lentils again, nuts, seeds, and soy. Lots of protein foods from which to choose, whether you are a meat eater or you are a vegan. Don't sell yourself short when it comes to choosing proteins. Oils, including vegetable oils and oils in food, such as that found in seafoods and in nuts. These are the core elements from which we choose our basic dietary needs. And again, aim for whole foods wherever you possibly can. Fresh is always really good. And look at staying within an appropriate amount. Again, remember the system that you're fueling and choose accordingly. The fourth point that the dietary guidelines point out, and I think it's something that we all need to be aware of, is limiting foods and beverages higher in added sugars, saturated fat, and salt, and limiting alcoholic beverages. To me, that's just basically common sense. At every life stage, meeting food group recommendations, even with nutrient-dense choices, requires a personal daily assessment of what you need in terms of basic calories to fuel your system appropriately and salt. A healthy dietary pattern doesn't have much room for extra added sugars. You sacrifice something if you add in extra sugars, saturated fat, salt, or alcoholic beverages, which are pretty much nutritionally barren. You do not get a lot of bang, if any, for your buck from those types of choices in terms of making a dietary plan that is as healthy as it can be for you each and every day. Added sugars, a good estimate is less than 10% of the total amount you're going to eat per day, starting from the age of 2, should come from added sugars. Starting at the age of 2. Wow. Think about what you're feeding your kids and your grandkids. Saturated fats, again, less than 10% of the calories per day, starting again at the age of 2. Watch adding fat to the food intake. Sodium, less than 2,300 milligrams per day, and even less if a child is under the age of 14. That's a tiny little bit of salt. We don't need a lot of salt. We do require some, but we do not need a lot of salt in our diet. That translates to less than a quarter teaspoon of salt. Wow, not much, huh? And it does add amazing flavor. Alcoholic beverages, adults who can legally drink can choose to drink or not to drink in moderation by limiting their intake to 2 drinks or less a day if it's a man, 1 drink or less a day if it's a woman, whenever they choose to consume alcohol in some form. Drinking less is better for health than drinking more. That's, I think, to me, just basic common sense there. There are some adults who should not drink alcohol. And first thing that comes to mind is the caution for women who are pregnant to avoid alcoholic beverages. So this just sort of gives you a basic frame of reference when we talk about dietary guidelines and what we're going to be discussing when we go through the next few weeks and examine some of the choices that we make, good, better, and different. There are choices, and we have the responsibility for owning them. Keep in mind, when we talk about a dietary pattern, it's the combination of foods and beverages that constitute our individual complete daily dietary intake over time. It might be a description of a customary way of eating or a description of a combination of foods that you have been recommended to follow by your healthcare professional. That's actually what a diet is. It's a way of eating. Good, better, and different. It's a way of eating. And then nutrient dense, when we talk about nutrient dense, it's how do you get the maximum health benefit from your food choice buck. Foods and beverages that contain more vitamins, minerals, and other health promoting components and have little added sugar, little added fat, little added sodium, are usually much more nutrient dense. Vegetables, fruits, whole grains, seafood, fish, eggs, beans, peas, lentils, nuts, and seeds, fat-free and low-fat dairy products, and lean meats and poultry when prepared with no or little added sugars, saturated fat, and sodium are nutrient-dense foods. And it's from them that we should be choosing most of the things we ingest each and every day. That's what eating healthy is all about. And that's what we're going to focus on for the next little bit is how to eat healthy. What does it mean? One of the things that I want you to think about as we prepare to move forward with this topic for our discussion for the next little bit is what are your favorite foods and are they nutrient dense? And if they aren't, how can you alter them somewhat so that they will be more nutrient dense choices that will help your diet become even healthier than it is right now? So, with that little puzzler thrown out to you for this week to think about a little bit, I'm going to get off here and go play in the sunshine. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will check in with you later. Bye for now.